Hi, I'm Tom and just one pack, and this is AC on the short Alpha Clash podcast where I'll talk all things Alpha Clash on my way to work. We are doing spoiler season for Echoes of Eternity, the sixth set of Alpha Clash. Now, I'm not going to do spoilers per se in this episode, but I haven't talked about a single card, and I want to dig into it because there are some really interesting bits here. So let's do that. Now, the way I want to do this is by taking one contender. We know that there would be 7 of them, but I'm going to take one of them and sort of explore how I see that contender wants to be played, right? And what cards may or may not support it from what we know at time of recording. Now, to start this off, because I might want to do all of the contenders as they come out, I'm going to start this off with Cadavros. Cadavros, Prophet of Despair, is a green contender in the Discarded affiliation. He is a 0-1, so he follows along with Krung in that matter. The previous discarded, the only previous discarded contender. More on that in a later episode. It has 20 life. And has a very interesting ability. So let's sort of dig a little bit into that. So the 20 life ability of Cadavros, which lore-wise, if you don't know, as far as I remember, is the creator of he's a scientist that sort of helped create the Discarded, right? So could we see he's the odd uncle of the Discarded, something like that. But he has this interesting ability. I'm going to read it out loud because otherwise, you sort of need to. There's a lot of moving parts. Let's put it this way. So here's the thing. His 20 life ability says action, meaning once per turn, right? Discard a clash card with a specific resource cost less than or equal to your resource count. If you do, put target discarded clash card in your Oblivion with an initial resource cost of equal to X into your clash zone engaged, where X is the specific resource cost of the discarded card. Now, he has a 10 ability as well, sort of a life gain. If both clash cards in a clash die, then he gains 1 life. But that's not the really interesting bit. The 20 life ability is the really interesting bit. Now, just to break it down, the way this would be played is I have something in my Oblivion that I want out for one reason or another. And in order to do that, I can discard a card from my hand that has the same number of pips, these these colored diamond triangle things underneath the cost, the specific resources you need, specific color binary resources you need, has exactly the same amount there as the card I want out costs. Now, it doesn't have to match in color. That is really important. But it has to have the same amount of specific resource costs. Right? Also, I have to have at least that many resources in my resource zone. They don't have to be active. They can be engaged. I just need to have at least that many resources there. If all this falls into place, I discard the card. Then I can take that card out of Oblivion, put it into my clash zone, engaged, and continue playing. Now, the great benefit of this is, of course, that I do not have to use resources to do this. That is very, very neat. but it also hints, and that's the first bit of this, it hints at this tribute cost of playing things from your oblivion. Now, discarded and death primarily have, at least to my understanding, has had effects that play things from your oblivion. Now, Cadavros sort of leans heavily into that, where Lord Krong were more of it was more of a side effect for you to do that, right? Cadavros wants you to do this for him, right? So he leans into that, and he leans into this. You need to pay with other resources than resources in order to get a card into your accessory side, or at least to cheat it in a little bit. Now, there is more on that on later card, but that has not been a thing before. Right? Well, sort of, because other cards have had discard abilities. So, is it worth it though? Well, to look at this, in order for this to be worth it, in my opinion, or my evaluation, we sort of need for there to be some benefits to this, right? So, in my understanding, we need either to get a benefit from the card we play, or from the card we discard in order to do this, right? So there must be a reason for doing all this. Now, one reason, of course, is that you get a card out without paying the resource cost, but then you need a draw engine not to run out of cards in hand way too early, right? So that's a balance there. So there is a benefit there, but you need somehow to draw the cards up. All that said, that made me look into what benefits would I have for cards that could be interesting to get back from Oblivion that does not do that on themselves, right? Or by other means. Now, having said that they don't do that by other means, turns out to not be exactly right. The thing is, the normal specific resource cost on cards, or at least on discarded cards, which you probably would lean heavily into, right? The normal cost, specific resource costs, are 1, 2, and 3 in a bit rare cases. So then there are plenty of ways to get 1, 2, and 3 cost cards back out. Not always into your clash zone, but you out as an ambush card or back in your hand. So the resources, the cards you can play, are more or less the same as you could with existing cards. So there isn't a huge scaling there. Remember, you have to hit it on the nose as it is written at this moment, right? So having that, it is a 1, 2, or 3 cost. Now, is there anything interesting in 1, 2, and 3 cost cards? Sure there is. There's the Necrotic Krung, for instance, which we almost always see Krung players sort of fishing around for in the Oblivion once you killed it. And in there lies a hint of what I think the strategy is. Right? So there are cards that could be interesting. Gur, the 1 cost Gur, is an excellent symbol for something like this. But what would you discard to do this? Well, in order to have an extra benefit to this, you want to discard things that you actually want in your Oblivion. Now, there are actually a few cards you really do want in your Oblivion. Now, before I tell you all about those, remember this is the actual resource cost that you have to match. So some cards have a lower cost when you play them from Oblivion. One thing is a card like Rislack. For Rislack, Ferocious Threat, I think. That card costs only 2 when you play it from Oblivion instead of the normal 3. However, you have to use a 3 specific cost to cast him for this. However, he does provide you with 2 specific resources for the Cadavros effect. So having him out there makes him cheaper for you to play if you discard him to get something out. And that means that for 2 resources, you will get both the Lord Krong the 2/2 Necrotic Lord Krong out, and a Rislag, which I think is a 2/3 for just 2 resources, right? So, and the only prerequisite for that is that that Rislag is in your hand and Krong is in your Oblivion. That is not terrible. Another thing is that there are things like Truck Unusual Assistant, or another discarded clash card, black discarded clash card, that you might want to have in your Oblivion. The reason being that you can banish him from your Oblivion to activate the portal. Now, usually as a discarded player, you want the portal to be open. So if you're playing against someone who keeps closing it, then it's nice to have a Truck in your Oblivion just in case. And you can discard him. It costs nothing to banish him, right? And now you can discard him and get something back as well. So there are cards in the existing card pool that you do want to have in your Oblivion for one reason or another. Now that brings me around to an interesting card that came out or is coming out with Echoes of Eternity. Now he's not a 2 actually, but I'm going to go with one first. There is a card. I've only seen it as a Team Covenant box promo, but I'm guessing it comes out with a more dull art in the regular boosters. That one is Cadavros Wild Virtuoso. Pardon the expression there. Wild Virtuoso. Now, what he does is, he's just to set the scene here, he's a green discarded card. He's a 4/4. He's a 4 cost 3/3. So he's a little bit expensive. More expensive than his stats would so his basic stats would allow him, right? But he has an ability that says action diminish 2 cards, and if you do, your contender gains 1 health. So you can sort of play him out there and get a little bit of health back by discarding from your deck, right? Diminishing. But what is more important about this is that he's a 4 cost, sure, but he's 4 green specific. Now, hitting 4 specific of a color is not easy. Unless you are running monocolor. If you're running 2 or 3 or more colors, it's really hard. It's really hard to hit that 4 cost barrier. 3 is hard even, right? So what you want to do there is that so you want to be sparingly with things with that big of a specific cost, or rather you used to want to be sparing with a specific cost like that, because the beauty of this is that now you don't have to. The 4 specific cost now is a benefit to you, because you can now discard him and get something out that costs 4, like the Unrivaled Lord Krong, which costs 4, the black-blue Lord Krong, right? Should you just happen to have had him discarded earlier, now you can diminished or killed some other way, you can actually get him back. And that is not a bad choice. What is even better with the Cadavros Clash card is that it has a specific ability that says if this card is discarded from your hand by a contender ability, you may draw a card. So with that specific card, you discard a card, you get something like the Big Lord Krong out, or the dual color Lord Krong out, and it replaces itself in your hand. So that is, and by the way, without you using a single resource yet, you just have to have 4. That is very good. And it may get a little bit better, because there is a new card coming out as well, which is the 9-cost Thragor, or Thragor Dread Titan. Now, what that does, it's a 9-cost, but it swings for, is that the 8/6? I can't remember. It's quite big. 5 something. It costs 9, but you can tribute summon, as I mentioned earlier, that being a sort of a theme starting to emerge, by discarding, by sending 2 clash cards from a Thragor and a Cadavros clash card to your Oblivion, then you can reduce the price to 7, right? Now, this is not an early game thing, but the thing about him is that he can only be played from Oblivion, or at least he cannot be played from your hand. That may be the point. So you need him in your Oblivion. So now you can send him to Oblivion as part of the Cadavros effect, gaining you a 5 resource clash card back out. Don't exactly know which one that would be, but then again, spoiler season is not over. Getting a 5 resource discarded clash card out. Discarded clash card out. That was hard to say for some reason. And then having him end up in your Oblivion for later play. That is you're not replacing your hand, but that is sort of a power mode, right? You get him exactly where you want him, by your own control. So and you get something fairly big out there. And remember, you only need 5 resources to put him there and get something out, and you still have the 5 resources. So yeah, if you have enough resources, in fact, you could get, if you already have, let's say, a Thragor out on the board, in your clash zone, you could use him to maybe get a Cadavros out, or vice versa, whatever comes in a 5-cost flavor. Sack those 2 and get him out after you've attacked with them, right? So, if you have enough resources. Anyway, so there's a theme there about using your Oblivion much more to discard stuff to re-emerge them from there. Also, in the early game, I sort of get the sense that Cadavros wants you to put things in there in order for smaller things that your opponent already has killed just keep on re-emerging, right? Which is annoying for your opponent, but really, really nice if you are the one doing it. Anyway, I think Cadavros is a super interesting build. There's a whole new way of interacting with your Oblivion that was not the way that either Krong or Death have had it done before. Now we are so much better for this strategy. Not that this strategy is better, but the fact that you now have a new way to interact with your Oblivion is really cool. So I'm looking so much forward to getting my hands on Cadavros and exploring that strategy. Anyway, that was it for me. I'll just talk to you again later. Bye.